You know what really chaps my dick is that Wizards of the Coast don't seem to care about their own colour pie in their own game. Of course I'm all for experimentation, but it should really be within the confines of the rules of the game that you invented. The main cards I'm referring to are Resculpt and Ravenform from the recent sets, and as far as I'm aware I'm the only one who actually has a complaint to make about these cards. And I also think that it's mainly due to the thing that we're all sick and tired of hearing about at this point, the fact that blue and green gets all the good stuff while white doesn't get things that are anywhere near good enough. I mean, why are we still waiting on white's ramp and card draw effects when we never should have been left waiting on those things in the first place? If eedi-H is your favourite format and your most successful and lucrative format, which apparently it is, then we need to have all the colours being able to white and ramp because that's the most important two effects in eedi-H. What we shouldn't be doing is concentrating our efforts into getting colours to do things that they shouldn't be able to do with regards to your own design philosophy. The most recent example of which being that blue is now able to exile artifacts for some reason. What made you think that blue needed the ability to say no to pretty much any spell, the ability to bounce the board and make the game take fucking forever, draw all the cards on planet Earth, mill everyone's answers away, and gain the ability to permanently remove not only creatures, which is another colour pie break that I don't agree with, looking at you Pongify, but also artifacts for some reason. And not only that, but they exile as well, because we can't have blue having anything but the absolute best, can we? Meanwhile, which instant speed 2-mana spell in white can exile an artifact? Go and have a look. Go and try to find one. Stay where you are, nerd. There isn't one. Bearing in mind that white is the colour of exile and gets rid of artifacts and enchantments very nicely, white does not have an upgraded disenchant. And even on disenchant we were waiting for them to reprint it for years, which might display a little bit of bias with Wizards of the Coast, as though we haven't seen enough of that already towards white. But anyway, that's by the by. Point being that cards like this really annoy me. And I've heard people say, oh Tribal, well this is just an experiment and we're seeing the back of these experiments now because they work years in advance. Well, that's all well and good, but what if it's a failed experiment? What if it's an experiment that they never should have gone for in the first place? Well, now it's too late because the cards have been printed. It doesn't matter if it's an experiment or not, the cards are here. The way you experiment with stuff like this isn't by coming out swinging for the fucking fences, but by bringing out a 6 CMC sorcery that makes a 4/4 thing or whatever the hell it is, and saying, what do you think of this, chumps? You've made it as good as you can make it, straight out of the gate, in blue, breaking the colour pie, at common. Meanwhile we don't have a disenchant for white that exiles instead. And I know that people have already jumped into the comment section saying, and you're about to delete those comments to save face, I know you are, oh blue has always interacted with artifacts, it's kind of the artifact colour to be honest. And while that's true, that's for your artifacts, not permanently interacting with your opponent's stuff. Blue bounces permanents, that's how it interacts with them. Now if a player plays a problem artifact or creature, then blue can just bypass its counters entirely, save them for another time, and just straight up remove them if it swings in their way. That should never be an option for blue players. Now I am a little bit of a hypocrite when it comes to colour pie breaks because there are some that I'm actually all for, the most recent example of which being for black in that it can get rid of enchantments now. The simple reason for me being okay with this is that there isn't currently a colour that only gets rid of enchantments. Green gets rid of both, white gets rid of both, red gets rid of artifacts only, black gets rid of enchantments only, and blue gets rid of none, but to make up for that it can counter pretty much any spell. That seems like the way to go for me, but doesn't seem to be the way we're headed unfortunately. And some people will say, oh well black has discard and that's kind of black's version of counter magic. But the problem is targeted discard effects are way worse than counter spells. It's a roll of the dice to see which player you want to target with the discard effects, and then they might not actually have anything for you to discard in the first place, whereas counter magic you can just sit back, wait for someone to show you what they have, and then counter it accordingly if you want to. We could go the mass discard route, but do we really want to encourage that and add 7 turns to the game? Yeah, I don't. Green has some as well in their pacifism effects in Song of the Dryads, Kenrith's Transformation and Lignify. I'm actually okay with these ones too. These aren't too bad because they're enchantment based removal, but this really should be a white effect, and the removal of abilities is more of a blue effect too, so hypocritical of me, but I think I'm okay with these in green as long as we don't see many more of these effects. Beast Within also should have said non-creature really. I love that green can fight and get rid of other creatures now because it's very on theme and it's conditional. So yeah, Beast Within should have just gone after non-creatures in my humble opinione. And then in red there's the infamous Chaos Warp, which is red's ability to remove any permanent at instant speed for only 3 mana. Again, I'm okay with this card as long as we don't see more of these types of effects because it does have the chaos aspect to it, and that could always backfire, although in my experience it doesn't most of the time. Usually you just flip them into a land. And then it just ends up being a red get rid of any permanent spell for 3 mana, which red probably shouldn't be able to do. Because then it gets rid of enchantments and it gets rid of creatures and planeswalkers without burning them, which isn't something that red should be doing really. But like I said, it's got that chaos element to it, so like in green, I'm gonna be okay with this and let it slide as long as we don't see many more of these types of effects. But what do you think? Are there any colour pie breaks that bug the hell out of you? Or is it anything goes in the world of Magic the Gathering? Let me know in the comments section below. You can also follow the link through to Patreon with the link in the description as well. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe as well. I'm tribalkai on the eedi-H channel. Thank you for watching.